When you don't take time to look at it through other people's eyes. Take some time and reflect on what you believe in your soul. Cause that is the key to life. You gotta let the negativity go.
Hi, What the Foxers. This is your co-host, Lindsay Fox speaking. We are so excited to welcome you to season 2 of What the Fox podcast. With that, before we get started, we have some huge news to announce, and that is the fact that we are now being sponsored by Therapy Appointment. So first things first, we want to give a special shout out to Therapy Appointment for believing in us and our mission here at What the Fox podcast. Therapy Appointment is a full function EMR providing a complete suite of practice management tools for mental health therapists. We would like y'all to know that this system has been developed for over 15 years. It has been offered to the public for more than a decade, and the system itself was conceived and created by psychologists in private practice in Texas, using his own experiences to create a truly useful practice management system. Ultimately, Therapy Appointment ended up moving their offices to North Carolina, where they are calling home at this point and serving over 20,000 therapists. So with that, we do highly recommend that you scope them out at therapyappointment.com. And we appreciate you tuning in to today's episode, which is the first episode of season 2. Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to season 2, episode 1 of the What the Fox podcast with your hosts, Lindsay Fox and Amber Ross. In this podcast, our goal is to create a community of people who are willing to explore beyond the status quo in an effort to connect with their highest selves. We're here to deconstruct social norms to build better lives, and part of that is opening up a safe space where you feel welcomed, accepted, seen, and valued. I know Lindsay and I both hope that all of you feel that way. We are very grateful that you choose to tune in and listen to us each and every week, and we are pumped to be back with you for season 2.
Whoop, whoop.
I know, it's crazy like that it's already here, and I'm so excited. And I just like my brain's spinning a mile an hour, or 100 miles an hour probably. A mile an hour, that'd be real slow. Anyway, today's episode was actually inspired by one of the many resources that Lindsay keeps nearby for inspiration and thought-provoking content. So Lindsay, do you want to kick it off by reading what you sent me?
I would love to. So, hey guys, we're glad to have you back for season 2. So, yes, today's episode was inspired by an oracle card of all things by it's an oracle deck called the Wisdom of the Oracle, and the card that I pulled happens to be the number 5, which, by the way, if anyone's into numerology, the number 5 is all about change. And the card reads orphaned. So I just want to share the oracle message here, because when I saw it, I reached out to Amber and I said, wow, this really does speak to so much of, things that we've talked, so many topics that we've talked about, as well as our listeners and how they view aspects of their lives and how they've kind of worked through, their challenges to kind of come out to the other side. So the oracle message reads, we were all meant to have connections with other people within our families, society, and a larger culture. No man is an island, and it's important to recognize when being a part of, rather than separate from, is essential to your well-being. The issue at hand is the need to find where you fit. Be true to your core truths and values. Perhaps you no longer identify with a group or community the way you did before and need to find a new situation. You might be feeling a deep sense of loss or confusion. Address the need for belonging and know that you will find your place with others of like mind and spirit. It's okay to let go of pressure to fit in. Not everyone will understand you, and it's time to move on. I loved that reading for whenever this card that came up, because especially too with that number 5 is all about change. And as we enter season 2, I feel that, something that Amber and I have been very intentional about is the fact that we do want to go a little bit deeper. We do want to go beyond just hearing people's narratives and what they've gone through or where these beliefs came about. We want to dig just a little bit deeper. And I think a part of that is also exploring when that pivot came about, like really diving into when that pivot of when it's time to move on and how you know it's time to move on, how you know you're no longer fitting in and it's time to shift gears and seek out what is for your highest good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's amazing to me when I spend time reflecting and when I spend time in those seasons, specifically the one that I'm in right now, where I feel like everything is changing,
It
and
is changing.
and zero things are staying the same. And you have to intentionally take that time to evaluate what's serving you, and not just what's serving you to keep you comfortable, but what is
Mm,
in your life that is serving you in a way that helps you elevate and get to that next level, whatever that level might be for you, as far as if it's emotionally, if it's spiritually, if it's relationally, because I think we're all in constant movement in different areas of
mhm.
our lives, and if we sit stagnant too long, I think that's where
Yep.
a lot of trouble happens and a lot of problems happen, specifically with like your mental health.
Yeah, I was going to say that's when we really find ourselves getting stuck in the headspace of like just not wanting to get out of our own head, or just our thoughts become really self-defeating, or you're kind of having that downward spiral where you just can't get out of your own way. Um,
Yeah, and then it's like you manifest it, right? So then everything gets stuck, and you're like, "Oh, well, I guess I was
yes.
right." Like, I don't wanna be right
Right.
about that. I don't wanna be wrong about that.
Exactly. And I also feel like people don't seem to realize how powerful our mindset is in terms of manifesting our reality and what it is that you actually want out of life. We have significantly more power and control over our, I want to say, our livelihood, in the sense of like maybe our highest spiritual selves than we give ourselves credit for. Just through our mindset and how we allow other people, places, and things to absorb our energy, like how
Yep.
much we're willing to put out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, and it goes back, like, I'm sure that there's an old saying, but it's just something that floats around in my head, that the people that you surround yourself with are the people that you become, right? So
yes.
those communities that you're interfacing in, and
Hmm.
I don't mean just in person, I mean online communities, I mean, like,
Yeah.
all of the things,
Yeah, the
the
content you're
the
watching online,
content,
YouTube,
yes.
social media, whatever, it's like in the comments section, if you're getting like really sucked into
Oh my
something or
gosh,
watching the
yes.
news all the time,
Nope.
it affects our energy levels. I mean, it totally affects our energy levels without a doubt.
It does, because then you've got all of these different swim lanes in your brain, and if they're all
Hmm.
going down like a negative direction, all you start to see are negative things, and then you manifest more negativity and more hardship and more frustration
Yeah.
just because of your mindset or your unwillingness to move
Hmm.
yourself from a situation. And I think um it goes back to that basic human need. Like, we all have this innate need to feel a belonging or to feel needed or to feel
Hmm.
wanted. And sometimes that causes us to not want to make a hard decision or step out of that comfort zone
Hmm.
to maybe separate ourselves and be apart for a little while.
Yeah,
Just because then you have to do self reflection, and like that shit sucks sometimes.
it does. And that's where it's painful sometimes. It's
It
totally
is.
painful sometimes. And so a part of that high need for belonging that we as humans experience, which is completely normal and natural, um, we can also put our personal needs on the back burner as a result. We can also, not choose, we can choose not to live in our most authentic, type of life or be our most authentic self because we are so busy trying to fit in and belong and feel accepted by our, culture, our families or societies or whatever that's around us. And so that self-reflection work is so important in order to, to your point, I like that word elevate, but yeah, to elevate, it's just, you got to do that work, and sitting
Mhm.
in the shit does suck. It doesn't feel good. There's a reason why it's uncomfortable, but usually that sign of feeling uncomfortable is also a little nudge of you're probably on the right path, as it pertains to like a healing journey, so to
Yeah,
speak.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's something that we don't allot enough time for ourselves to do. And it's something that
Hmm.
we avoid. And it's something that I see even in mentoring type relationships, you know, we want to do the easy tasks that are,
Yep.
they are gratifying, and it's like instant gratification, and it's something that you can see the growth, you can see, you know, why it was useful immediately.
Yeah. Yep.
But very rarely is that work the stuff that you need to get to that next level and to be able to like
Yes.
actually accomplish a goal, a dream, you know,
Mhm.
any of those things.
I was just talking about this with a coaching client yesterday, as a matter of fact. This idea of it's so easy to focus on the topics rather than the bigger issue. It's so easy to hyper focus on or nitpick, whether you're in a relationship and you're like nitpicking these little issues of that, or I said little topics of like, why do you do this? Why do you do that? Or I can't stand when this happens. And it's just like, wait a minute. Is it really about this? Is it actually about this thing? Or is there like a bigger elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about? We're just going to skip
Yeah.
over the bigger topic and or bigger issue, and we're just going to hyper focus on these little topics here and there. And those are the kind of things where we get our wheels spinning and we're spinning in the wrong direction. It's not helping anyone really grow. It's actually more of an avoidance technique than anything. And that stops us, or it hinders us from being able to grow as a collective, frankly, when you have a lot of people living their lives like that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And it's hard to look at that and say, okay, well, here's the top 3 things you need to do to change that right now. Because, like, the first one, everybody's going to roll their eyes when it's self reflection.
Right. Right.
We're like,
And that's, I
oh,
mean,
man.
I know. I feel like that's where Instagram, will throw out like top 3 things for blah, 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 top 5 things to do this. It's like, yes, if only it were that easy. Like words are easy, but the action behind it can be deeply painful to work through. And I do have a working hypothesis. This is certainly not clinical in nature as a therapist, but I do have a working hypothesis that, um, the universe presents these learning opportunities for us. The universe presents really, when there is a massive challenge before us, it's really important to reframe that in our mind as a learning opportunity, as a growth opportunity, no matter how painful it is, so that you can say, okay, what is the lesson I am meant to learn in this? Rather than why does this keep happening to me? Why is this happening? Why did he or she do this to me? Why is my boss acting like this? It's very, very important to sit in that shit for a little bit, practice some mindfulness, and ask yourself and really engage in that self-reflection of like, all right, what am I being shown here? What is the lesson that the universe is trying to show me? Because if the same kind of stuff keeps happening, those same kind of examples or scenarios keep playing out with different people, and you're the common denominator, it's not to say, hey, you are at fault, but it's to say,
Right.
hey, what is the lesson here that you're being guided or prompted to take away from this, so that these patterns and situations can stop, because your response to these things change or stops or changes.
Yeah. And I mean, it is important to note that, like, we're not suggesting that you are the problem, right? But
Right.
we all have the ability to make changes that will get us out of those repeat
The
scenarios.
loops.
And gosh, you
Yeah,
got to break
those.
the loop at some point.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's what I mean. And just in terms of like that reading
yeah.
of, no matter what your position is in the group, sometimes it's just time to move on. And so in order to move on, you have to identify what that loop is and what you need, where your part lies in it, and how to get the
Yeah.
heck out, so you can maybe find your new community of belonging, where you do fit in, so to speak.
Yeah, and I also think that it's okay not to fit in or not to feel like you fit in, because I've spent a far more of my life than I care to share trying to like make myself fit into someone else's perfect little box of like what
Hmm.
a female in the society is supposed to do,
I,
think, look like, act like, you know,
I,
all of those things.
I
And
can
I have
relate. Yep.
like
Yeah.
now embracing, obviously, like you and I both recently celebrated birthdays.
Yep.
And it will not shock you to find out that like I have a methodology around birthdays, that like I spend time reflecting on what the last year was like, what brought me joy, what stressed me out, like in an effort to create more space for the things that bring me joy and less space for the things that stress me out. um,
As you
so
laugh.
as I laugh, yes. Well, and stress is relative, right? Like there's good stress and there's bad stress.
Of
So,
course.
my goal in this sort of reflective exercise is to identify my part in those bad stress situations and make active changes to alter that course.
Hmm.
Um, so my goal is no longer to fit in. My goal is to exist in a space where I feel loved, valued, seen, accepted, but not necessarily to fit in, because I'm rarely going to fit anybody else's mold of, what they expect in a given time, and I don't want the weight of those expectations. So I've kind of
That's
removed that
fair.
from my life. Yeah.
Well, we can replace the terms, or fit in. We can replace that with belonging, because again, what you're articulating, I mean, I get it. Fit in really does sound more like I don't know, fitting in with the cheerleaders in high
Yeah,
school or
like I'm
some
not going
shit.
to adjust
Um,
myself to meet your
yeah.
expectations. Like,
But belonging is like a different, I feel like belonging is different, because whenever I hear you talk about what was the word choice you just said? Something about
welcomed, accepted, seen,
yeah,
valued.
yeah, just like that. That's, to me, that is belonging, but it's also a presence of like, yes, you belong because you're loved and accepted here in this space unconditionally.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
Not because of things I do, not because of what I bring to the table, not because of,
right.
yes,
There,
we're
it's
saying the same thing. Yes, I
mm-hmm.
agree.
Yeah, so
Um,
I agree. Different word choice. That's all. Right. It doesn't have to be fitting in.
no,
But
and I
that sense of
just,
community, that's what I mean.
yes.
Finding like your sense of community that allows you to feel connected, um, seen, heard, valued, all those things, I think is really important with regard to the power of human connection, because no man is an island. And that's something we learned, oh my God, throughout this pandemic, like crazy.
Yeah.
Like we cannot exist on an island. It doesn't work well.
No, and I think you're 100% right. Um and I think those communities ebb and flow. Like if I look at my friendships and my friend groups and the communities that I hang out with, even like professional groups
Yeah.
and my wellness community and anything that we do outside of those things, they change over time. And I saw a
Yes.
quote. Oh my gosh, I saw a quote online the other day and I was like, yes to that. And it was something like, just because you and I don't talk all the time anymore doesn't mean I'm not still cheering you on from the sidelines.
That's right.
And it's that idea that we can exist in community, we can care about one another, but we don't have to be in each other's space
Hmm.
all the time. And we don't have to continue just putting ourselves in situations that aren't necessarily serving the highest good, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
It was a
Uh,
lot of words, but hopefully it made sense.
no, of course it made sense. Of course. Yeah, because this is exactly what that card was about. This, that card that I pulled earlier about um, having, as you grow and evolve, having that benefit of hindsight, but also that ability of self-reflection of seeing where you quote unquote fit in. Like, is
Mhm.
this my group? Is this my community anymore? Maybe it's not. Maybe I've outgrown this community. And it doesn't mean you're not going to still root those people on, but it's
Right.
okay for you to take space and be like, you know what? This isn't my space anymore. I actually need
Yeah.
to go out over here and branch out and generate a new community that suits the type of inspiration, growth, mindset, or energy, that I'm seeking and how I want to evolve and expand. And it's okay to switch up your communities, and you don't have to, feel pressured to be someone that you're not. I think that's just
Yeah.
is that don't stay um, in a community where where you've outgrown the people in it, and not out of a like an ego-centered space, but
Right,
just
right.
like I think the point in life is really to grow and learn the lessons that we're being, the opportunities that we're being gifted, learn from it, and expand from it. And so I could not agree more with you for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's important, everyone's life is going to take a little bit different path or a little bit different trajectory. So when we say, I even felt it like in my heart when you said that, like when you say you've outgrown a group of people, that's not like that's not a good or bad thing. It's just a thing.
It's
Like they
morally
could be
neutral.
growing.
That's
Yeah, it's
right. It
growing in
is.
a different direction or growing
Yep.
just into different spaces. And I think that's beautiful. And that's part of life because we all have different strengths. We all have different
Oh, yeah.
goals. We all have different, personalities. So I think that that's just part of something Eric and I've been talking about recently. Um,
For our new
the
listeners, Eric is
Oh,
Amber's
sorry.
husband.
Yes, that guy. That guy. We were talking about this season of life. We were really heavily engaged in a church community for many, many years. Like I'm talking, I was a part of it for 12 years, and I think Eric was a part of it for 10. And it was a beautiful season of our lives. It was a beautiful, like, we brought kids into the world, we got married, like, we did all the things. And at the core of that and at the source of that was this deeply rooted connection to this church community. And in the last couple of years, I've seen that wane a little bit for a ton of reasons. But we sat down and had a conversation that it's just not in our season right now. And that's, it's not
Mm.
morally connected. It's none of those things. We are still heavily spiritual people and we are, well connected and doing all the things that we feel we need to do right now.
Yep.
But it was okay to like close that chapter on a season of our lives to say, okay, like this served its purpose. It was beautiful. It was amazing. But we need to shift gears into a new community and a new season and a new outreach because that's what we were feeling called to do and what we were feeling quite violently pushed to do. Because sometimes those changes feel
Abrupt.
violent, like they feel abrupt. They feel like someone just ripped a Band-Aid off. And it's not, I'm not indicating that like anything went wrong or sideways, just to say that like sometimes you go, oh, this
Yeah.
is what I was trying to be shown. Like, this is what I've been,
Right. This was the lesson I was trying to.
This was the thing.
Right. And that's what it means. Sometimes it takes a few times. That's what I
Yeah.
mean is sometimes the stuff presents itself, the opportunities, the learning opportunities, which are, challenges or hardships, those things throw themselves in front of you in different ways and look a lot of different ways. And it's up to
Yeah.
us on how we choose to respond. And I really appreciate that word season that you've thrown out there because that is so dead on accurate of just people in our lives. They can be in our life for a short season or for a long season. And the experiences that we have, it's no matter how long that it's in your life, it's there for a reason and for you to sort of take what you like and leave the rest is really a pretty popular 12-step type of slogan, but take what you like and leave the rest. So whenever it comes to the people that are in your life or the things that you're being shown in your life, take what you like and leave the rest in terms of the lessons that you can learn from it, and so that you can keep moving, keep growing, and connecting with your life purpose and whatever your calling is.
Yeah. I mean, and it's seasons of change are painful. They're uncomfortable, but they're beautiful all the same. And I think that this season of What the Fox podcast, I think is going to be beautiful. It's going to be deep. I think it's going to, I actually am looking forward to sharing a little bit more of my story, bearing down a couple of layers and
Yeah. I
seeing
think
you
it's
do
going
the
to
same.
be, yeah. Yeah. Amber's been nudging. Yes,
Ever
I
so
know
gently.
Yes, this has certainly been a question I've been asked too. Is like, we want to hear more of your story. We want to know what does your story look like? And
Mhm.
so it does make sense for season 2 for us to dig a little bit deeper and to do our own self-reflection and share more personal elements of our own lives with you, so that you can kind of experience like where on our journey, how we got to where we are today and what kind of keeps pushing us forward and connecting with our highest selves.
Yeah, and I think it's that pivot moment, right? Like we call it a
Mm-hmm.
pivot, we call it a plot twist, you call it a cha-cha step, like whatever it is, but everyone's life has those moments, but it's very hard to see them until you're
Yeah,
past them, right? And
man,
it's
hindsight.
it's
Holy
like
cow.
I
I
look
could have
back 10
saved
years
myself,
ago.
right? I could have saved myself so much heartache, headache. Oh my gosh, so much pain and suffering with the benefit of hindsight. But then would I
But
be
you
the
know
person I am
what?
today?
Yeah, I have such a hard time with that idea because, people say if you could go back 5 years, what would you change? And
Right.
man, this may be the anxiety in me, but like I'm terrified to change anything because then I'm afraid that the good things that I'm experiencing now, I
Yeah,
wouldn't have because of like some minute change that I made to something else. So
that's right. The ripple
I am
effect.
one, like very glad that we can't go back in time and make changes. And two, like I enjoy where I'm at and I like doing the
Mhm.
reflection. We've talked about it a lot. I spend a great deal of time reflecting on interactions and on years and on like holidays and all the things because it's fun to look back and see those pivotal moments. And I'm hoping that in season 2, we'll get to share some of those from our own stories as well as hearing from some of our listeners on their moments.
Yes, we would love to hear more from our own listeners. And don't get me wrong, we kind of have quite a list of people that are already planning to come on for this season, which is pretty exciting. We've got some amazing guest speakers coming. But we do want to hear more from our listeners. We want to know, what has kind of, pushed you in this direction to completely shift the direction of your life, and maybe it was by choice or not. Again, sometimes things just come out of nowhere that just completely shift the direction that we're moving in, yet you see with the benefit of hindsight, like, wow, that was supposed to happen in the way that it did.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this led to that, and then this happened, and
Yeah.
then I got it. Like,
I mean,
okay.
even in the context of this podcast, I mean,
Yeah,
Amber, we would not, number one, we would not be friends had the last 5 years not panned out in the way that they had, frankly, between both of
true.
us.
Yeah,
We probably would not have reconnected in terms of like our friendship. This podcast probably would not exist. Like, there's just so many different things. Like when you look at things, it's like, yes, everything panned out exactly the way that it should have, regardless if they were fun moments or really shit moments.
oh, yeah, the last 5 years has been a mixed bag of both of those things, friend.
Yes, yes, it has. Yes, it has.
Oh my goodness. As always, we mentioned it. We do want to hear from you. You can send us an email. You can drop us a DM on the What the Fox Instagram page. We absolutely want to hear your stories. We want to hear your thoughts, your questions. And I think something that we're going to start doing over on Instagram is opening up more opportunities for you to share feedback, share thoughts, and share questions because I can't speak for Lindsay, but I think she'll agree with me that I love hearing from the listener community. Like I
Yeah.
love hearing people's thoughts, their feedback, their ideas, things that resonate with them. And
Hmm.
I think that's a really fun part of this because we do this as a method of community. So when we have that like other side of it come back, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
nice.
because it's the engagement piece. It
Yeah.
is nice. And one thing I have noticed is that I do understand because of some of the topics that we talk about, like some of the stuff is really heavy and we get that.
Yeah.
So, it is important. We understand that some people would like to remain anonymous with some of their shares. That is
Yep.
totally fine. We also want to remind you that we have an email address, which is whatthefoxtales. So TALES. So tales as in like stories. This is where you send us your stories, particularly if you want to be extra anonymous, so that we can, share their story or even invite you on as an anonymous guest onto the podcast. So please email us at whatthefoxtales@gmail.com.
Absolutely. This has been fun, Lindsay. I am just beyond thrilled to kick off season 2. If you had asked me, a year and a half ago when we started doing like the real work of getting this up and
Yep.
running, if we would make it to season 2, I think I would have felt uneasy. But walking into this new opportunity, walking into this new season, I'm just really grateful and really excited.
Same, same. I am, um, honestly, I am so overcome with gratitude to be where we are today for so many different reasons. And we are so truly grateful for our listeners. That's where I mean, I keep wanting to bring this back to our listeners. We are so grateful that you all continue to tune in to be a part of this journey. And we hope that you choose to share these episodes with your friends, invite people to be a part of this journey and to engage as well. And we look forward to seeing you each and every Tuesday.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for episode 1 of season 2. We will see you back next Tuesday.
That's right. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.
And we all sing, everything is gonna be just fine. It's gonna fall into place. The sun is gonna set on your terrible day.